All right, everyone, welcome back to another video, and this time we are taking a little bit of a break from going over the BT29 Fearsome Rivals archetypes to kind of talk about more of a fun subject, which is looking forward to 2026 Legacy support, whether that's from in-set support, the Anniversary box, which is always one of the best products that Bandai gives us, and this is my personal wish list. So this isn't like I think these should because of non-biased reasons. This is a very biased list. This is exactly what I want, and hopefully this just jives with a lot of you because you also want support for these decks. Maybe you love these decks as well. You want to go back to playing them, and because there's just not that little extra bit of something that it's keeping you from taking it seriously and like wanting to play them, because like why spend a hard-earned weekend, you know, at locals once a week if you go that little to on a deck that may brick and feel terrible, instead of playing one of the newer decks and something more exciting and something you get to touch your cards more and stuff like that. So this is again my personal wish list for the year 2026, and we're going to do a handful of each color as well, and it's going to be the leader with like basically my gist of what I think the deck needs or what I would like. All right, so going into red first, we're going to start with some of my personal favorites. So first one is just red future Gohan, or Gohanks, whatever you want to call it. This deck had the one cost trunks that when you comboed it, it gave double strike. That was limited to one, and like, sure, a one of Champa, like, didn't necessarily, like, it didn't kill the deck, but it did it enough, like it hit it enough where they've just come out with better red decks. So like, you know, red Vegeta plays more, swings more, free plays more, whatever, than Gohanks. So you're like, okay, whatever. The new Broly coming out, like all those cards just read super well, giving everything barrier duel, and also like everything's 2025 30, where like what you're playing to swing at your opponent is bigger. Like it's just they've pushed red unfortunately more in recent sets, where Gohanks needs like, he needs something if he's ever going to be playable again. I think this was like a fan favorite enough that if we continue to talk about it, that we're going to get some more Gohan support. So let's go ahead and do that, because I really do love me some future Gohan. Now, specifically, the idea offered up for this one is just a new one-drop Trunks to replace it, right? Like, we lost 3 targets of the one Trunkses that help kind of like the draw engine and stuff and consistency. So I think we just flat out need a new one. And I think the new one should just be, and I realize, look at my little forgotten T here, a new one-drop Trunks that restands a future Gohan. So like, you know, all these other ones give keywords like barrier, you know, crit, 1 minus is 5 plus 5, whatever. I think this new one should restand, so essentially give dual attack, but like you got to sequence it that way, right? So I think that's a really easy one to give. Restanding a Gohan, even if it is the 4 cost 20k that gains double, I don't think that's crazy, because again, red Vegeta's here. Look at red Broly, what they just gave us. Like, they should be able to do something like that. I think that's very simple enough. Maybe a new future Gohan as well to play. You've got the one that minuses when you use the effect. You've got the one that restands, and you've got the one that restands and gives double. I think you could, you know, have one that has inherent crit. I think you could do one that is a little bit bigger than a 15 or a 20. You know, like just maybe a little bit of a bigger boss monster, right? If the boss monster is a 20k double, I guess it's the Trunks, right? That is technically your boss monster. Maybe something else between the 4 cost SR future Gohan and the 8 cost Trunks. Something in there in terms of power level. And I think this deck starts to feel a lot better. And then maybe something new in the Z deck, right? Because like the Gohanks leader is like great, but no one ever went into that. I think it's cool that they gave a Z leader where these two fuse. The whole theme and everything is like sick. The Z leader also reads kind of well, but it did just enough of a different thing that people stopped doing it. Because why would they want to stop everything this leader does naturally without Z Awakening when they go into a Z leader? Because it just changes everything. So maybe something new in the Z deck as well. One of my personal favorites, God, I love this deck, is Red Android 13. And this got Anniversary Box support, I want to say 2 boxes ago. And that support was really good. Truly really good. It gave it a Z extra that lets you go into the 7 cost 13 easier, although you do get rid of it at the end of, I think, the turn of the turn cycle. And then they gave it a dual name 1514 that makes you Z charge like crazy, which is again phenomenal. It's a one cost, so plays into what you're doing with playing out your free played one cost and stuff like that. And then they gave it the barrier Super 13, which is a much smaller body at 15, but it has barrier and it helps you start tucking again, doing things that the deck wants to do. So it really did help the deck, but as you can see, it wasn't the kind of support that made it a meta deck, even a rogue. Like, it's a character that I don't think a lot of people play, so maybe if more people worked on it and figured it out, there'd be something. But I do think it needs help, and so what I have is a Z Unison that can also free play your one cost. When this deck first came out, a lot of people were putting in the SS4 Gogeta that would free play the +2, can also gain double with another skill, SR Unison, and that felt really good, but you didn't want to have to like spend a whole turn by playing the Unison and then like hoping to God you can protect it and all this stuff, because if you didn't, it felt super bad to do that. So I'm thinking of a cheaper Z Unison. Heck, it can even be a different Z Extra. I know that would kind of conflict with the one they got, but just something that sticks on board that allows you to get the one cost out more often to gain value. And then another one I would add for this is a new 7 cost. Like there's the red one, and then you that one cost 13 allows you to union absorb into any of the other colored Super 13s. But like when you do that, you throw off the color and the consistency and stuff of this mono red deck. So what you should, it just needs another potential 7 cost, and maybe that is a barrier blocker that helps you defensively, right, instead of another offensive piece, because that first 7 cost 13 is really, really good, where it can swing 3 times for double strike. It minuses a bunch of things, minus 25. I would love to see maybe a barrier blocker, something that helps you defend without it being like, get this card a new floodgate or a new free negate or something. I think that's a nice middle ground there. Jiren, this was just like such a cool deck idea that it's upsetting that they didn't push it enough to make it even playable. Like some people have played this, but it really is not even a rogue deck. I think the skill for Activate Battle should have been pitching your Unisons for combo power, not having to Spirit Boost, which again kind of conflicts with you wanting to be a Unison deck with markers on your stuff. I didn't like that at all. As far as this one goes, a way to play your small Unisons from deck, because you're pretty much hoping to draw them. And if you don't do anything as a deck. So being able to get them from wherever they are would just be huge in terms of the consistency and stuff like that. I think it needs more than that, but that's a good start. And then I'm going to move my face real quick for this. So this is red Superhero Gohan. I have more evolved cards and targets and then a bigger toolbox. And by that, I'm basically meaning like this deck's super linear. It just like goes through the Piccolos, it goes through the Gohans, it Z Awakens, and then like what are you kind of doing? I wish there was just a way where your first 3 turns aren't the exact same thing. I think this deck is really cool. I think it deserved better. And as much as they've been trying to push superhero stuff, I think they need to go back and make this deck worth playing, or else again, what are we doing? Like this was so cool. It's a fan favorite. I know people would absolutely love it. Going on to blue. So another thing that I think people were super excited about was this blue Broly BR that evolved and did some cool stuff and had its like protection for its stacks and stuff. But none of the Brolys did anything. Like you were always getting them back in hand, and I think your hand was somewhat healthy for the most part. But when like unless you're like raw drawing the few rare or few good generic blue cards in your deck fitting around all these different Brolys, you just had a bunch of Brolys, and all the Brolys didn't really do a whole lot. I think one drew, one removes. The big one that costs like 3 or 4 to play, I'm not entirely sure. It's the big one, has dual attack and does some cool stuff, but you like never get there because it's such a tall chain to eventually do that. They had a TP that came out for it that was very good. I think it should have just been an in-set evolve piece. But for the most part, it's just when you're looking at your hand and you're like, wow, if I like don't go up my chain almost every turn, like the whole thing, I'm really not getting much value out of this deck. Like it's not any better than any other blue deck. So what this deck needs is, I have 2 different things for this. 1, a way to make evolve free to be more energy efficient, or 2, find a way to make this deck ramp. So the more energy you have, the more you can like do the chain and stuff, because everything in the chain costs 1. And so if you got to go up from, you know, the small to the medium to the large, large to the extra large, and stuff like that every single turn. That's just a lot of energy. And I know with blue, you have ways to get your energy back and do things defensively, but offensively, even when you're paying that much, the payoff just didn't seem all that great. There's not a lot of keywords in it or on those Brolys as well. There's not a lot of control mid-range like effects that feel like you can swing tempo depending on the situation, like reading your Brolys and going, oh, this is the lineup I need to go through. This is better for this scenario and stuff like that. It was a lot of meh. And then there's only one of the 3 cost Broly that if you don't see that is free played off the Z Unison, you also aren't doing anything. So this deck just needs more consistency and an easier way to do exactly what it wants to do. So a couple different options there. Then we have SS2 Gohan. So this is one from, I want to say, it's Supreme Rivalry, excuse me. One of my favorite leaders of all time. So much fun, just it needs support, and it has gotten some support, right? It got the TP, which made it crazy. Then it got like a regional promo that was also such a good, like perfectly made piece of support for this deck. It was the Goku with the Halo, lets you fix your energy almost immediately if you open it in the game. Like seriously good. But at the same time, it is a deck around playing skillless cards, and so you're stuck playing a handful of vanilla 20Ks. And I just think what this deck needs is a Z Unison or a Z Extra that protects your skillless and or gets more value out of them. You can't beat your opponent to death with 20s that don't have like upside. And so if there's a way to just get more out of skillless cards, I think they've got to figure out a way to do it. The Triple Strike Gohan is a heck of a card. They made it a lot easier to play with that 1 cost Goku promo. But that can't be the only thing that it can do. Of course, you can fit in some other generic good blue cards. The 8 cost Broly BR, the SR from the previous deck we just talked about, is still a good option. Beast Gohan is still a heck of a card. The Z deck in blue is getting better with its Z Unison, so there are things to do. I would just like something to make you play and do what the deck wants and stay on theme. And feel good doing it without having to go, okay, I've done like the little bit of skillless play, now let's go play the generic blue stuff, which is again the same thing in every other blue deck if you want. And then lastly for blue, I have the latest Blue Baby. I just think this deck was really cool. I liked the way you mess with the field card and were tucking and spamming out your brainwash people, and that was I really like the toolbox that they were able to kind of create with all these people. But something was missing, and I think it just happens to be draw power. I think you just need to draw a few more cards. The Tuffleization Planet field card is like your second hand, but that still didn't feel like enough. I think you need a new Brainwash that does more. There was a regional promo, another 8 cost Ape that I think had double strike and did some stuff, but again, there's a reason this deck isn't seen play, and one of the easiest ways to fix decks is for it to draw more cards or expand its toolbox and does something unique that not every other generic good deck of that color does. So that one's not super detailed. I just really like this deck. I wanted to see it again because I don't feel like it had much time in the light. So more help for this Blue Baby, please. As for green, I think these are a lot of fan favorites, or they at least had their niche of fans. This one on the far left is like the field Broly that went through all the different movies, essentially. So the thing about this one is that, again, you did the same exact thing through the first few turns, and it was like just so boring. And if you bricked and couldn't do the very specific things you needed to awaken and go through your field chain deal, like, again, you just didn't do anything. And this leader's cool. Look at this art. This art is actually insane. It's one of the best like base form pre-SLR arts they ever did. You literally can combo your multis, yeah, but they become 0.5Ks, but like it immediately unbricks your deck for running multis. The Z leader didn't minus the combo cost, so it made you have a bunch of free 10Ks. And then the leader in this, you can see if you place a green card from your battle area into your drop, then this got 5K to a 20K leader swing. The Z leader gets to a 30K swing, doing the same thing. And then it's got this shtick of when you attack a battle card, you can't, or your opponent can't counter it. So like it really helped you clear board by actually swinging. A lot of your Broly's, when they did that, when they swung into a battle card, they restood. So a lot of cool stuff. But you had to like open with the Paragus Broly and then the first field, and then you do the first field thing, get rid of the Broly, and then you play the 6-cost multi Broly, and then that survived for a turn, and then you play the second field, and then you do the second field thing, and that gave you the multi 4-cost Broly from Second Coming, and it beamed your leader for a turn cycle. And then if that didn't survive, you didn't do anything, because the 8-cost Broly multi SR, that is a very good card, only evolves on Broly's red or green, that or 4-cost. And it's way too specific. So if you just like flat out didn't have a 4-cost Broly, you weren't evolving and playing the big card that was supposed to be the payoff. So this thing just simply needs more 4-cost Brolys that are easier to play, that aren't simply like, you don't need to go through 2 different field cards and 3 other different cards to finally get to the one card that you need to then play the other card that you need. It's just way too convoluted. They need to fix this. It just needs to be more of a consistency thing. I don't know how they're exactly going to do it, but I think better 4-cost Brolys and more 4-cost Brolys is a good way to start. Then we've got the Trunks that was opposite Green Bojack. I believe that was in Legend of the Dragon Balls. This one I think was such a cool idea. This is my favorite form of Trunks, by the way. It is long-haired Bojack movie Trunks. So I was really, really excited about this. And then the deck just flopped really bad. And I think this deck did have like one top in Europe or something along those lines, where I think it was more of like a trap thing. People didn't know what it did. And he got, he got a leg up on people because of that reason. So I think there's always been something to this deck. Again, multi-decks are cool. There's not a lot of really good ones, so when one comes up, you really hope for the best, but this one just wasn't that. What I think this deck needs is a multi-energy that you can charge after you awaken, for starters, right? The front says you can charge without energy exhaust red-green sand cards, and then the perm just goes away when you awaken. So if you like didn't or weren't able to charge a multi-sand earlier, then you just don't. And I think that's the dumbest thing in the world, that for new leaders, including the new black Goku that plays black and white cards, that perm stays. So I think you need to have a multi-energy that you can charge after awaken. And then another thing is easier, less convoluted ways to just get the colors green and red in your combo area so you can play your arrival stuff, because those arrival cards are very good. Maybe you add a new target as well, but for the most part, I think they just need to make this whole thing streamlined. I love them trying to complicate things for the sake of fun, but once they undertune it too much, then it becomes boring or clunky, and it just makes for not a fun deck. Lastly, the extra card Green Broly here. I had a ton of fun playing with it. I put a lot of work into it. I know there's some people out there who continue to put a lot of work into it, and this has gotten several rounds of support. I believe it was inset support as well, and it's still not there because the hand size is way too small. You're tucking all your extras under your Brolys, and then your the extras under your leader are a second hand, and normally that means, like, in general, your actual hand size is huge, but no, it just isn't that way. You are playing too many cards, not getting enough from their effects, and watching your actual hand dwindle, and the next thing you know, it's like turn 3, turn 4, and you're like, I don't know what to charge because I have 4 cards in my hand, and they're all very good, and I need them to not die. So, needs more draw power. I don't think that makes this deck any crazy. I think like you could double the hand, and like in any regular game, double the normal hand size you have now, and you're still perfectly fine, because this deck wants to do one thing, and that's, crap out these 8-cost Brolys. And again, cool, but if you don't have enough to defend yourself, like you don't see the floodgates you need, you can't use all these negates, where you need more, you're just going to simply die. So I think more draw power and a new 8-cost, because there's just the triple striker, and then you have like an old one from starter deck Broly BR way back when, and then there's a multicolor yellow-green Broly from an anniversary box that just, you can't play that because it's clunky, even though it's a very cool card. Not a good one in terms of effects. And then you don't want to play the old one because it's just simply not as good. So new 8-cost and more draw power. All right, for yellow, quickly with this Frieza. So I've never actually played this Frieza, but I thought the idea was always so cool, and it's got a really beautiful SLR. This, like, it was their first 11 cost. Like, we've never really had 11 cost cards, so I just think its ability to just, like, again, crap out these 11 cost cards with cool effects was really, really cool. And while these 11 costs weren't super broken, they weren't attacking, and so you have to use like other cards to negate their perms. Let's say they can't attack, so they could attack. And then it's got some fun flavor cards like the Frieza that you counter negate, and then it, like when you combo with this card, it gains like 490,000 combo power or something like that. There's another meta cooler that was also like when you negate, you either play a bunch of meta coolers or again, it's combo power based on how many meta coolers are somewhere. I don't know. But like two really cool, fun, flavorful cards that you're like, oh, that's fun. I get to use these cool cards in this specific deck. Well, there's almost no payoff. It's a Frieza's Army, so you get the Cold Bloodlust. You get to play some cards that, again, if you are a Frieza leader, Frieza Army, then you get to, again, that power level, that floor is a little bit higher. But again, it just simply didn't do anything. It made no waves at all. You just almost never heard about it. So I love finding these decks that I think are cool, but then realize like literally nothing happened, and you almost forget they exist. So with this one, you need more 11 costs with better effects, because obviously the ones that they printed simply aren't good enough. And then this one is like Ramen Coup, or whatever you want to call it, on the front. Such a cool leader. Again, SS2 Gohan, spamming your 1 cost. There's some really cool control effects with those ones on board if you sequence correctly and set up right. I had a ton of fun with this deck, but it felt like if you ever played it into a good deck, an actually good deck, you hated yourself. Now, its Awaken clause basically relies on a 4-cost Goku, and there's 2 different 4-cost Gokus. But you play them at a point where your opponent like could counterplay them, and if they aren't on board, if they don't get on board, and if they don't like swing or do several other things to then lead to the awakening specifically, you just didn't awaken and you don't get to play the game. So this needs another way to awaken that doesn't rely on any of the 4-cost Gokus. Otherwise, I think it's fine, because the big SS2 Gohans, there's like one from the inset, the SR, there was a TP one as well. They're all very good cards, but it just needs a little bit something more. I think this deck is really kind of right there on the edge. Super 17 Yellow, Cross Spirits. Dude, this is one of my favorite decks. I loved playing this deck. But again, when you played it into anything that was good, it felt so bad, mainly because its whole line, its chain, has no recursion. And also, like, this was right before they started realizing that like more cards need to draw and play, and like just simply give you more value. So if you like ever went up your chain from the 1s to the 3 to the 5, and then someone sniped that 5, I think you go back to the 3, but then you needed to see more of those 5s. But there was only one card that was a 5-cost target, and there was only one 8-cost. So like if you didn't see any of your chain pieces, you also just didn't play the game. But I think there's something so cool about a leader that gets bigger and bigger with the more cards you have underneath other cards, which is kind of Super 17's thing, right? The red one does something similar. So it just needs new chain pieces and recursion when those chain pieces are sniped from your field. So a new 5. 5s always play out the 3s. Another card that gets you the 5 back from the drop conveniently. Something that maybe allows you to get to the 8 cost as well. That 8 cost was a doozy if you ever got to pull it off. I think you were able to restand it. And it's a triple strike 25k. Like, it's not too powerful now. I think giving this deck like the actual support it needs. And I think around in the anniversary box is exactly what it needs. But if it's anything like the green Super 17 that we got a couple years ago in the anniversary box that did absolutely nothing because that deck was already so bad, then why waste our time? So new chain pieces and recursion. Then this last one, this is one of my personal favorites. Like literally, I don't know anyone else who has touched this deck, has played it, who likes it, but I've had so much fun. And like I created a build with this that I always had a blast with. It's obviously a green-yellow kind of a rival deck. The effect is that when you pop something once per turn on your opponent's board that's in rest mode, your opponent discards a card. So it's yellow removal that turns into hand destruction. And there's, green and yellow Android 13 cards from before when this leader came out that you got to play as well. They brought out a new successor piece, and this got some support in some sets afterwards. But again, it just doesn't do enough because you're forced to play all these like names, 14s, 15s, and stuff. And then you're forced to play a number of multis. And this was before they realized that they needed to start adding perms and things that helped unclunk your deck when you play multis. So this deck can clunk, and it can also simply fail to find multi-charges that aren't in energy exhaust. There's an Android 13 that if you have 3 androids in your drop, that you can charge it in active mode. But if you don't see that on time, you're still just charging mono yellow, and you don't get any of your effects or cards, or you can't play anything that may cost a green as part of it. So what this deck needs is a lot, but it needs more multi-charges, so that's more consistent. It needs the ability to combo for free, as in a way to build Z energy. And then it simply needs more bodies and better bodies, because right now there's a 4-cost 20k 13 with double strike that at the start of your opponent's turn, your opponent chooses 2 of their battle cards and KOs them, which pops the effect on your opponent's turn immediately. But it's a 1 plus 10k that clunks, and it doesn't do enough. The successor that came out in this set costs 2 energy, and it's a 30k triple attack that every time it attacks, it pops something. But it's a 7 cost, which is an awkward enough number for successor that it's just like tough and awkward to get there. They don't have like 8s for successor, which is the number you need for green and yellow, right? So it just needs to do a little bit more stuff. Better 15s and 14s, like newer ones. There was a 1 yellow, or a 114 and a 115 in this that, again, were just kind of cantrips and searchers, and like you just need some more names that do a lot more. So one of my personal favorites, I'm sure this is such an oddity and a rare thing. I'm probably the only one, but I love this deck so much. Please, 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 let's get some support. All right, and then lastly for black, Black Cooler, Golden Cooler. I love Cooler as a character. I've said that in my previous video about the new Blue Cooler deck. I thought this deck rocks. Like, it felt so good. I think it was like really slept on. And then once people, yes, did kind of figure it out, they realized that, oh, we just got to kill your unison. And we just got to counterplay like certain specific cards that this deck wants to play like all the time on curve. And there's just too many outs to those things. So this just started to feel really, really bad. So the biggest thing is you need more unison protection, because it's a 2-cost unison, and then it only pluses on your opponent's turn. So it relies on your opponent basically attacking. And like they could attack at a time that's more beneficial to them than you, and just make it not feel nearly as good. So this needs more protection in general for the unison. And I think it needs a new 1-cost Trunks, because the 1-cost, there's 2 of them, so you run 8 copies. That's like the best card you want to send to your drop and then send to your warp to get more effects and play out your free play Prison Planet guys. But if you don't see them, again, the deck feels bad. You're just kind of playing like 15s and 20s and getting a few buffs here and there. But its best cards are cards that you can also play in other black decks, so you kind of get more value out of maybe playing something else with those specific cards, the SR Cooler and the SR Golden Cooler. So more unison protection to make this more consistent and able to play your game without fear of your opponent easily disrupting all of that. Then I got Super Foo, here, which this was a ton of fun to play as well back in the day. It spams out a bunch of Cumber Servants. There's one that warps, one that combos for free, and then one that warps a card from your opponent's hand. So it's got this really cool toolkit. It has, I want to say in the last year, got support via a new 1-cost Overlord of Foo, and then a new 6-cost Cumber that you can play as well. So like, it's gotten support, but again, you're not playing this over Panzeno, because Panzeno is way too fast. You're not playing this over seemingly Vegex, Gogeta Zeno. Like, there's just other black decks that are better, and it's the black sand decks. So this deck needs to find, in my opinion, like the support that it gets, if it does, needs to lean into a different identity. And I think with its ability to draw and set itself up and set up its plays and its boards without having to attack with this leader, lends to potentially more of a control aspect. So you have, the defense, which is your once per turn redirect from your leader or anywhere to a Cumber that's just sitting there. The Golden Ape Cumber, again, also it heals you back, right? Also very good defensive black SCR, but it's really only best in this deck. So I just think instead of it trying to be mid-range to maybe even aggro with how much you're spitting out these Cumbers, I think you need to lean into control, and I think it would become a very fun, unique black deck. And another option potentially is giving it a Z Unison, one that just, again, helps stack your Z deck, play out Cumbers, protection, just doing things to make it unique and make it just as good, if not still on par with like the other good black sand decks. And then lastly, Vegeta Senno. This one got hit by the form of Beyond All Limits being banned, which was such a good card, and it simply needs a new replacement. I think you have to give it another 6-cost 30k Goku that does something towards what the deck wants to do. And remember, this deck only gets value out of blocking and attacking with your Pataras, your SSB Vegito Unison, blocking, and all this stuff, right? So it needs things that help facilitate that specific lane of play. And one of those things could be a new Patara Union target, because right now you just have sparking offense and defense. You need more, and I just think adding one more target, one more Union that maybe don't make it as cracked as the first Union, but also, again, facilitates what the deck wants to do. So that is my personal wish list for the 2026 cycle. Real quick, because I was asking around for if anyone else had good ideas and recommendations for their support, I've got my friend Jay Dagendorf. He's on team something. I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to actually take a swing at that. But phenomenal player. He played in that North America versus EU Latin America challenge this past summer. Great player, great guy. I asked him for what he would like. So some of the things before we end this video, I'm going to shout out here, is that he wants a new yellow 4-drop that plays an archetype Unison, which is a draw 1 on a +1 effect for yellow Topo. So he's after my own heart because I love yellow Topo. Such a cool deck. I think it's a leader that could have been rebooted a long time ago. Very strong effect. Obviously they're teetering on the fence with that one, but again, giving it more support to give us a unique, different style of deck to play, I think would be so much fun. And I love Topo as a character. God of Destruction form, he's phenomenal. White U7 Goku needs a new locked boss monster, an 8-drop that plays for 2, restands a hidden mode card with removal and a dual attack 30k. It sounds like it does a lot, but that's kind of what that deck needs, unfortunately. Aegis Gogeta needs a new fusion target that doesn't cost 4. I can agree with you there. I don't like playing against that deck, but it does sound like it needs something to kind of expand its toolbox and its play lines. He wants the latest version of Red King Piccolo to be playable. It needs a ton, but he doesn't care. He just wants to be able to play that deck and feel good about it. So whatever support that deck needs, that's what he wants. Successor Frieza needs a dual color that has no energy exhaust for a turn 1 play, because you are stuck playing the only dual cost Overdrive activated Frieza in rest mode on turn 1. And yeah, I love that deck too. I love green-yellow successor-based decks, and that one needs something to charge inactive on turn 1. So again, you can actually feel like you do something when you start the game. So that is it from Jay. I think those are great options. If you're my friend Peter, you want Gingertown Green Cell to be unerrataed and made worthwhile to play, but that deck I think is so garbage that unfortunately it's just him hoping that there's support. So this has been my 2026 Legacy wish list. If there's anything you guys hope is in Legacy wish or Legacy support for this year as well, either it's the anniversary box, whether it's the next couple sets coming up, go ahead and drop in the comments and let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. As always, please like and subscribe. It's been a ton of fun so far. I appreciate you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.